Automation of test cases through the user interface. So if you have a mobile application on your iOS or on your Android device, we are going to show you how to automate test cases through the user interface of the app. So it's everything about black box testing. Normally people apply this kind of testing when we are going to apply user acceptance testing or system integration testing. We will show you how to automate using scriptless testing. So not anymore programming through a script, but how you can automate the test cases by a scriptless way. The full solution is cloud-based, and we will show you also how you can script, but also how you can replay your automated test case. So this is what we are going to do in the next 35 minutes. Let's illustrate everything by using a very small test case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a test case against the Google website. So what you see up here is the Google website. I made a small video on an iOS device. Let me go back. So I made a small video on the iOS device, and let me play this video. Okay. So if you see what we have is the Google website, so the home web page. And just to show you, it's running in Safari. We refresh the page, and the test case we want to automate is that you fill in a name, an item to search for. So in this case, we type in the word submarine. And next, we are going to look for the images of the submarine. Very important in the test case is that we want to select the image on the second line. So we are not going to select the first image that you see there, but the image on the second line, the one with the orange color, so the small submarine, which is apparently in repair or in construction. And as soon as we open this image, we will go and close it. Okay. So as soon as we have the image up there, we will close the image by clicking on the X, and then we just go back to the home page of Google. So this is the script that you want to automate. If you look at today's solution, you see that a lot of tools, freeware and commercial tools, allow you to script your test case. So you are going to use a scripting language or a programming language, and you start scripting against UI objects of the application under test. In order to select this object, so this image of that submarine, which is in repair, normally you will see that people are going to access the HTML attributes of that web page. So you need to have some technical knowledge, how to access the HTML attribute, how to access the correct one. If you look at native applications, you have the same kind of problem, and most of the time the tool allows you to access these attributes of the developer. They need it to identify uniquely a UI object, and in the end, it's a technical task. You need to get used to HTML attributes, used to attributes on an Android UI object, or used to attributes on an iOS object. On top of this, if we look at the testing effort that you are doing today, You are working more and more inside an agile environment or using the DevOps techniques. Both techniques imply that you will have much shorter release cycles and also much shorter testing phase inside such a cycle. So you will have a testing phase into which you will have to automate your test cases and you will have to deal with changes, because in the agile way of developing, you get new screens, you get new functionality, you have a modified user interface. Next, your system can be incorporated into continuous integration or continuous delivery. So it's not only about, I am going to create a test automation script, it's also going about how to automate and run these test automation scripts perhaps each night or each week. And all this is happening today. It makes that the QA engineer is getting a lot of pressure in creating the test cases correctly and in enabling and making them execute also correctly. Because what you see today is that there is also a focus on test automation maturity. You do not only want to have some test cases automated, you want to have them automated in the correct way. You want to have your test cases that are very important for your app under test, having automated and having the possibility to re-execute them each time. So if we look at the tool that we are going to present up here, Jamo Automator, the tool allows you to create your test case, your automation test case, in a very short time frame. It's going to be much easier to maintain the test case and also, of course, to re-execute the test case. Because even if you take not such a long time in creating your automated test case, you still want to reuse it on different devices with different data sets in portrait, landscape mode, etc. And I will also show you that the tool is completely cloud-based so that you can share your information with other users. So let's have a look. First of all, we are going to create the test case. When we create the test case, it's very simple. You just record the test case. I have a movie up here that shows you how the test case has been created. Inside the browser, you see that we have a Jamo button in the upper left corner. You click on it, and you can select Start Recording. And from that point on, you just record your test case. So you're filling in this case again, the submarine word. As soon as it's typed in, you click on the search button. And on the results, you click on images. And again, we are going to select the image on the second line. And we will close the image. And then next to it, we click on the Google icon. So like this, so that we are back on the home page. We save the test case. And as soon as the test case is saved, we will have a look. So there was already one question if this webinar is going to be recorded. Yes, it's going to be recorded so that you can view it later on. And let's now look at the tool itself. Like I said, the tool is web-based. So let's go to the website and let's try to log in. So you have to specify your account. In this case, it's a Jamo Automator account. Your email address and your password. When you open the tool, you see up here the dashboard, which is new in the new release. And the dashboard allows you to have a quick overview of all different test cases that you have. As you have seen, if I click on the test browser, I see up here the test cases that I just created. One of them is the test case that we recorded and uploaded automatically to the cloud, which is Webinar Submarine. If you don't know how to use the tool, there is an online videos available. You click on Getting Started and you have the videos explaining you on how to create your first test case, how to install your application under test, and so on. So let's have a look at the script that we just recorded. When we look down to that script that we just recorded, you see that we record the different screens. So each time that you do an action, you see the corresponding screen. We are not going to use that screenshot for replay purpose. We use it just to communicate and to visualize your test case. So the first thing that we did do is we did type into an edit field towards submarine. You see the command type submarine, and you see also that we highlight with green rubber banding the item. Then we have the search. We highlight again the item up here. We select images. We highlight the item. We select on the second row. We highlight the item. So it's very straightforward to read your test case. It's very simple to see what's happening. If we drill down, for example, in the type submarine, we are now drilling down, you see that we have the snapshot, but what we capture also during recording are all the objects that are composing this web page. So if I look at the Google object, I can click on it, and we see, let me just zoom in so that we can see it. So if we see up here the image info, we get all the information. If I click on Dutch, you see that we get everything regarding that link, the text which is displayed there, all things around it. We click up here and we have information about the object. So we do recognize all the UI objects that are in the application under test. We do recognize them so that people do understand them, non-technical people. So we are not talking here about a link. We just say it's a touch object because you can touch it and something is going to happen. If we look at the edit field on which we are going to type in something, we call it an input field, because it's an input field that's capturing input from the end user. So we simplify also the wording on how to communicate with the QA engineer. If we are going to modify the test script, and let me do it now. So I'm going to click on the edit, and instead of typing in submarine, so I click on the little icon next to submarine because I want to change this. We can say that we are going to type in the value, for example, boat. So let me type in that value and let me confirm. So we are going to make a little change in the test script, but when we are going to execute now the test script, we will not view anymore the results of submarine. We will get totally different images because now related to a boat, and we still need to be able to click on the correct image. So this is the image in the second row on the first line. So this is a modification also that I have made earlier, and now let's show you how it looks like when we are going to replay this. So let me go back to my presentation. And let me show you how it looks like when we replay this modified script. So we click on Start Replay, you select your test case, it's going to download the test case to the device, and as soon as it's downloaded, it will type in. So as you see, we type in now both, we get the results on both, we get a both, and we open the second one automatically. The reason is that we do not only recognize the UI objects, we are also going to test in a visual way. So if we test in this visual way, we will be able to recognize items in a list in the correct way. So there's no need for the QA engineer to do something special in order to test this constraint that he got there to select the second line of the images. Let's go back to the script itself. So I'm going to the browser and let's give you back some view on the script. So if we now want to check something which is happening on the script, so for example, when you type in up here submarine, you get an autocomplete list. As you see, we do recognize all the elements also of the autocomplete list. So if it's important to check that the first element after typing in is submarine, you can say I want to capture a verification point. So you just click on capture verification point. You say I want to check a value which is on my screen. You select the value that you have there, and you have a kind of wizard up here below that allows you to complete the verification point. So the fact that you have access to all these UI objects while you have created your test script allows you to create your verification points afterwards. You cannot only create your verification points inside, in an easy way, you can also create your synchronization points. You can capture data which is inside your screen, and you can reuse it elsewhere inside your script. So it's a very simple way to create your test script. If we look back, and now we are going to look at the report while we did execute this test script. So this is the report that has been created. You see that again, when we look at the report, we do capture all the images at execution time. You can drill down, and you can see if that we again give you access of all the objects that we found back when we did the replay. In this case, about a boat, and you see everything what happened at that time. And if you want to debug something because there's something different, you get access to the image which was there during replay. And of course, you can export these test cases, and you can look at the report, for example, inside an HTML view. Let's go back to the presentation. What did we see until now? We did see that we can record a test script, we can replay a test script, that the test script itself, or the automated test case, gives you access to all the UI objects so that you can create your verification points, that you can create synchronization points, and so on. The test case itself is very easy to read because you see the screens that you want to test. If we are going to replay, it's not image-based, it's object-based, but we use how these objects are visually situated against each other. So one way or another, we do visual testing on object level. It's very easy to deploy. You did see me opening Internet Explorer in this case, but we also support, of course, Chrome or Firefox. And you just log in and you have access to your test cases and you can start modifying them. Since it's scriptless, meaning there is no need to learn a scripting language, and since we also are able to hide the technical complexity of your application under test, it's very easy to learn, and you can have good manual testers or other people from your team joining the test effort and creating automated test scripts or help maintaining them. Let's go a little bit more. What we want to do is also creating a data-driven test case. So if we go back to our sample, so let's open our Internet Explorer. Up here, we are going back to the test case itself. We have up here our test case, and we are going to iterate on this test case. So let me open up the test case, and you see that we have all our images. We can say, I'm going to edit this test case. I'm selecting a step, selecting multiple steps, and I can ask to create a while loop. Just by clicking on the while, it's going to create a while loop. If we are going to create a while loop in a data-driven test case, we also, of course, need to have a data table. We can upload data tables towards the system, and inside this data table, it's a very simple one. I have only one column, and I have two items in the column. And we are going to type in submarine, and we are going to type in boat. It means that the test case will iterate automatically on all the lines, and once execute the test case for submarine, and the second time execute it for a boat. So let's go back to my test case. I'm going to associate that data table with my test case. So this is the data table that I showed you. And now let's use that data table inside my while loop. We select the different test cases. I click on while. I say iterate using a data table. I give my iterator a name. For example, search demo. You can have multiple data tables associated. So in this case, there is only one. And we just created our data-driven test case. It's one big loop. If we drill down into the loop, you see that up here we have our iterator, but we are not really using that iterator. We are still typing in submarine, as you can see. So just click on it. And again, we say edit that step. I'm going to change my value into what I want to type in. It's not coming from a constant value. It's coming from an iterator. I call the iterator search demo. I can have multiple columns. I have only one up here. And I say done. And next to it, my value that I'm now going to use to type in, it's coming from my iterator, and I'm picking up the value in the column item. When we execute this, we will execute twice the script. I'm not going to show you how it has been executed, but let's look at the results. So if we look at the results of the modified script, you see that we have two iterations because there are two lines inside the data table. If we look at the first step, you can see that we get all the results from submarine, and that automatically we select the second line. If we look at the second iteration, we are going to type in boat, and we get the results from the boat search, and of course the images related to the boat, and we select the second image. So it's very easy to create a data-driven test case. So the tool is scriptless. We have these wizards to help you creating, for example, the data-driven test cases, but you can also iterate on the number of lines that you have in a list or other elements. When we have created a test script, you can also replay, of course, the test script. I showed you how to replay on a normal device, but you can also replay against an emulator. You can replay against devices that are inside a central lab or devices that you rent in the cloud. We have no technical restrictions. If you are going to rent your devices from the Amazon cloud, or you're going to rent them from another device provider like Entity Resonant or Perfecto or anyone else, you will be able to apply the tool. When you are going to automate, you want to kick off the execution of your test cases automatically. There is an integration with CI systems like Jenkins or Bumble, or you can integrate it with any other scheduler that you may have to kick off the execution of your test case on specific devices. Since the tool is cloud-based, you can also give access to your developers or managers or product owners that they can consult the results, that they can look how the test case has been created, what it is doing, and these people who are not executing test cases or not creating test cases, they get free access to the information. So you can enable that these people get access to your information by creating a user account for them, but you give them the role of only looking to information and not editing the information. So if we go back to the tool, you see up here that you have logged in, that you can look at your own profile, and you can see that in this case I have the editor rights. So I can change test cases, I can create new test cases, I can execute them. I'm also administrator, meaning that I have access to the information of other users, I have access to the number of licenses that are used, etc. So let's continue. What do we have today? Today you have seen that on iOS we have support for native, hybrid and web-based applications. Unfortunately today on Android we have only support for native applications. We postponed our release for hybrid and web-based applications until the end of this month. So most of you may be interested to use it on Android, then you will have to wait until the end of the month to test hybrid applications and web-based application. And hybrid application is is an application whereby you have HTML-based user interfaces. If you want, we can warn you when the release is available by the end of April, so that you can evaluate the tool. The evaluation is normally for 14 days. If you already evaluated in the past, please note that you can only evaluate once with a specific email address. If you want to reuse your normal email address, just let us know. Send an email to info@jamosocials.com and we will grant you another evaluation period of 2 days for that specific email address. We are constantly releasing new features and new functionality inside the tool. Our next big release is scheduled for the July timeframe, and inside that July timeframe, we are going to complete the visual testing. You have seen that using these objects and visual testing together, we are able to recognize, for example, that image of that submarine or that boat on the second slide. We will give you much more functionality in that visual way in the July release. We will also enhance the scriptless testing today we can replay, for example, a test script if we cannot put a breakpoint. So, for example, we will be able to put a breakpoint on a specific step so that you can replay until that point and just start recording again, for example. So there are many new functionalities that we will also release in the next 2-3 months to come. And of course, we have also our roadmap for the second half of this year and for next year. If you are interested in this one, you can also email us at our general email address, info@jamosolutions.com. So let's have a look if there are some questions. So please, if you have questions, you can put them inside the question section. You click on question and you type them out. So one of the questions is there a way to wait for an object before a step executes? Yes, there is. So you can have a synchronization point. Inside the synchronization point, you can specify the maximum milliseconds that you want to wait, and of course, if you want to wait on a specific property of that object. For example, until a button is enabled, you are populating a list, and a button gets enabled only when that list is populated. You can check like this. Let me try to answer all the different questions. There is a question, would you be able to sending the presentation? We will put the PowerPoint presentation online. We will put also the recorded presentation online so that you can have a look afterwards. Okay. There are some similar questions regarding the recording of this. Okay, there is a question, do you have an integration today with HP ALM? No, we don't have today an integration with HP ALM. We plan this integration for the second half of this year. So it's not for the July release. We plan integration with HP ALM by the second half of this year. Integration with Jira, the defect tracking tool, will be available by July timeframe. Let me check if there is another question left. Will there be support for native cross-platform frameworks such as Accelerator, Titanium, Xamarin? Yes, today there is that support. So if you created your application with Titanium of Accelerator of Xamarin, we are able to recognize these objects and to replay them. We are in fact not dependent on the way how you created your applications. There is a question about iOS. What about iOS native apps? Would you be resigning or need a debug.api file? It's a very good question. When you want to use our tool, you need to upload the APK file or IPA file of your native application. If we talk about iOS, it's then an ad hoc distribution of your application. It can be a released compiled ad hoc distribution, or it can be a debug one. We don't care, but it has to be an ad hoc distribution. What's happening is that we will resign this IPA file for you. So on our servers, we will resign the IPA file for you so that you can install it on the different iOS devices on which you want to install. So we will take care of the certificates associated to it, and we will allow you to install that app for testing purpose only, of course, on the different iOS devices on which you want to install. If you have some security issues there, because we are resigning the app with our certificate, then you can apply the tool also with a local testable creator. Because when we resign it, we use what we call a tool testable creator. And you can also do this locally. So in case if you only want and control the distribution of your app and use your own certificates to sign, you can do so. You can apply this internally also. There is a question on, can you check the HTML ID of an object? Well, that's just the kind of thing that we want to avoid. We don't want you to check something that has been created by the developers. I know that you need to have access to that HTML ID if you use a script-based tool. And then it's very essential that you have access to it because it allows you to identify, for example, all these UI objects that you have there. We are going to identify the UI objects in a different way. We are going to identify them, of course, it's an object. We know you can touch on it. It's an input field, but also how it's positioned relatively to the other objects. And we have special algorithms in place to identify them correctly. It helps you also in responsive design. It helps you in testing against applications with different languages. And you get not dependent on what the developer is doing. So if the developer is going to change the ID, for example, of your HTML, then of course you have a problem inside your test script. You have to maintain it. So it's just something that we want to avoid. So in our tool, you don't have access to it. We have to take care of the correct recognition of the different UI elements. Then we have another question. Is it possible to share scripts between Android and iOS? Yes, it's possible to share your script between Android and iOS on condition that the application has the same functionality. Okay, because we are looking at these objects, we are going to identify them. If you have the same user experience on Android and iOS, yes, please reuse it. Even between web, Android and iOS, if you have the same user experience inside your web application as, for example, on iOS, you can reuse it. Just keep in mind that if your app under test is not identical for the end user point of view, of course, then there are differences and you will have to deal with the differences, perhaps inside your test script, or if the differences, if you have many differences between iOS and Android, then perhaps it still makes sense to create two different test cases. The same applies for responsive design and tablet or smartphone. It may be that your application has much more functionality on the tablet because you have a bigger screen. So of course then this functionality can only be tested on the tablet. Can you elaborate more on the cloud? Can a company use their own cloud? So we have two ways that you can use or deploy your tool. First of all, our tool itself is hosted in the cloud. You have seen that I access a URL inside the cloud, which is hosted by Jamo solution, and you can simply use the tool and execute the tool. If you want to host yourself internally the application, you can also do it. So for suppose that you want to deploy the full tool internally, so having an in-house deployment, you can also deploy it on your own servers, and then you can use the tool. To which mail ID do we need to send a request? It's very simple. Go to our website, click on a free trial, and you will be guided through a page where we ask you to specify an email to log in, and you get an automatic email back with your password, and you can start using the tool for 2 weeks. So if we go back to our website, just type in jamosolutions.com and You can simply try it for free, Jamo Automator. You click on try it for free, and tool guides you just to start your evaluation. Okay, so I guess these are all the questions that we got. You will receive an automatic email on how to look at the recorded version of this webinar. I want to thank you all to attend this webinar and to just wait until we were live to deliver this webinar. So thank you all, and have a very good day or a good evening. Bye-bye.